Pro-Palestine direct action group Palestine Action has started legal proceedings to challenge the UK government's plans to ban the groups, under terrorism laws. And prescribing Palestine Action would make being a member of the group or inviting support for it a criminal offence under the Terrorism Act and carry a maximum sentence of 14 years in prison. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper published an order to prescribe Palestine Action along with two other groups today. They are a neo-Nazi group called Maniac Murder Cult, and I suppose it does what it says on the tin in a way, and an ultra-nationalist and white supremacist Russian militant organization called the Russian Imperialist Movement. The alleged leader of the Maniac Murder Cult is currently standing trial in the US for plotting an attack on minorities with poison candies given out by a man dressed as Santa. So I don't think this happened. It was a plan of his. The far-right Russian imperialist movement has a military wing called the Imperial Legion, which is currently fighting in Ukraine. Now, comparing Palestine Action, which carries out non-violent direct action to prevent a genocide, comparing them to either of these groups is obviously absurd. But there is some concern that Cooper has added the two genuinely extremist groups, specifically so that MPs will be more likely to vote the prescription order through. If you say, well, I don't want to vote for this because I don't really think Palestine Action are terrorists, you say, well, does that mean you support the maniac murder killer cult? Inside the Home Office, though, tension is reportedly high, with a senior Home Office official telling The Guardian this anonymously. From desk to desk, colleagues are exchanging concerned and bemused conversations about how absurd this is and how impossible it will be to enforce. Are they really going to prosecute as terrorists everyone who expresses support for Palestine Action's work to disrupt the flow of arms to Israel as it commits war crimes? It's ridiculous, and it's being widely condemned in anxious conversations internally as a blatant misuse of anti-terror laws for political purposes to clamp down on protests which are affecting the profits of arms companies. It's from a senior Home Office official speaking to The Guardian. The vote on prescription is expected to be debated in the House of Commons on Wednesday and in the House of Lords on Thursday, though Palestine Action hope that a High Court hearing on Friday could postpone a ban, if it is passed, coming into effect. Meanwhile, on Saturday, last Saturday, the International Centre for Justice for Palestinians held its annual event in London covering media double standards, US policy, and the future of Gaza. Now, Novara Media's Ceci Golding spoke to key figures at the conference about the pending prescription of Palestine Action. Tayeb Ali, a solicitor, criminal and international law. He's not a solicitor and a criminal and international law specialist. I don't call him a criminal. And director of the International Centre of Justice for Palestinians, told Novara Media this.
There's a huge difference between a terrorist organization and a protest organization. And, the right to protest, the right to freedom of assembly are fundamental values in the United Kingdom. The fact that the British government, the Labour Party government, has lost the argument and has decided to to prescribe Palestine Action as a terrorist organization is just unbelievable. And for a Labour Party government to do that as well is absolutely disgraceful. It's an abhorrent abuse of the terrorism powers in the United Kingdom. And actually what it does is it diminishes the meaning of what the Terrorism Act is. The Terrorism Act is not designed to silence people. It's designed to prevent serious loss of life.
The event's keynote address was given by Israeli historian and emeritus professor of international relations, Avi Shleim, who had this to say.
All my sympathy is with Palestine Action. These are young, idealistic people who are committed to truth and justice and law. But they see that their government is completely indifferent to all of these values, and it's not listening. And the police is more repressive than ever in preventing peaceful pro-Palestinian protest. So they feel that words are no longer enough, and they have to take direct action in disrupting the supply of weapons by Elbit, the Israeli company, to Israel. So it's the British government which is not just complicit in Israel's war crimes, but it's an active partner and an enabler. And the people from Palestine Action are heroes who are taking great risks to themselves in trying to stop Britain from helping Israel to commit genocide.
This is about Keir Starmer's petty authoritarianism. It's that we have taken the correct line, right? We are the people who are in charge. I am the man who is in charge here, right? Exactly the same kind of petty authoritarianism that you could associate with this time as director of public prosecutions. And that's why they see people who undermine their governance, who undermines the position they take as a government. So you have to ban this out of existence. Now, does this mean that they've lost an argument? Well, authoritarians tend to lash out when secretly they know that they're wrong. So there could be some elements of this, but broadly, I think it is more telling of their position as authoritarians who don't like being questioned than it does about them knowing that they're wrong and wanting to ensure that any kind of opposition to that, anything that lets the public know that they're wrong gets banned out of existence, right? Because I found a really interesting tidbit of information here. If you look at the absurdity of having people like Palestine Action alongside Russian imperialist fascists and neo-Nazi murder cults, right, is that the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, a Palestinian resistance group who operate in Gaza and the West Bank, right, who have engaged in some amount of terrorism, like airplane hijackings in the 70s. They were involved in the Second Intifada. They were people who were part of Al-Aqsa flood on October the 7th, right, attacking military targets, as NGO Monitor apparently said. I don't know the full facts of that. But anyway, they were a Palestinian resistance group on October the 7th. The Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine are not a prescribed terrorist organisation in the UK, despite being so in the EU and the USA. And this was asked by Christian Wakefield of Tom Tugendhat in 2024, I believe. Like, why is these people not prescribed? And to get a kind of non-answer to it. So they're not prescribed as terrorists, but people who deface planes with some paint apparently are. How very, very weird of a position to take, which is why I believe it's about the authoritarianism internally rather than a kind of specific principle.